I am Jarvis, your storyteller. Welcome to the Science Fiction Exploration. If you like the story, please subscribe to our channel.
The Defiant Guest. Grand Overseer Crixus stood beneath the crystalline chandeliers of the Celestial Crown Hotel, his emerald scales catching the light like polished jewels. The most exclusive establishment in the Andromeda Arm had never witnessed such an aberration in its 300-year history. Before him stood a human, barely reaching his chest, dressed in an immaculate midnight blue suit that seemed to absorb starlight. "This establishment does not serve your kind," Crixus declared, his voice resonating through the marble-laden lobby. The gathered alien aristocracy, from crystalline luminarians to the gaseous nebulans, watched with poorly concealed interest. The human, Nova Reed, simply smiled. "Interesting policy. Especially considering I have a confirmed reservation for the Imperial Suite." She produced a holographic confirmation that pulsed with authentic verification codes. Crixus's secondary heart skipped a beat. The Imperial Suite, 1,000 square meters of luxury suspended in the upper atmosphere of New Thessia, had never hosted anything less than planetary royalty. "Impossible," he growled, though his neural implant confirmed the reservation's authenticity. "Nothing's impossible with the right credentials," Nova replied, adjusting her cufflinks. "Though I must say, your welcome could use some warming up." The grand lobby fell silent as Crixus's massive form loomed over the human. "Listen carefully," he hissed, "I don't care what strings you pulled or whose palms you greased. This hotel has maintained its prestigious standards for centuries by ensuring certain elements remain excluded." Nova's smile never wavered. Fascinating choice of words. Almost as fascinating as the quantum-encrypted data packet I'm currently uploading to the Galactic Council's Ethics Committee. She gestured casually to the subtle neural interface glowing at her temple. Crixus's scales bristled. "Are you threatening me?" "Threatening? No. I'm simply sharing some interesting documentation about certain financial irregularities in your recent transactions with the Orion Syndicate. Would be a shame if that information found its way to the authorities." The ancient chandeliers trembled as Crixus's tail lashed against the floor. "Security," he roared. A dozen heavily armed guards materialized from hidden alcoves, their plasma rifles humming to life. Nova sighed, pulling out a small device from her pocket. "Really? We're doing this?" With a casual flick, she activated it. Every security system in the hotel went dark. The guards' weapons powered down, their neural interfaces crackling with static. "Electromagnetic pulse generator," she explained to the stunned silence. "Custom made. Like my reservation." Crixus's mighty frame shook with rage. "You dare?" "Oh, I dare quite a lot," Nova interrupted. "But right now, all I'm daring to do is check into my legally reserved suite. Unless you'd prefer I share some more interesting data packets?" The gathered aristocrats whispered among themselves, their attention fixed on this unprecedented confrontation. Crixus felt his carefully maintained authority crumbling. Each second this human remained in his lobby was an insult to everything the Celestial Crown represented. "Very well," he finally ground out, his claws leaving deep scratches in the marble counter. "One night. Then you leave." Nova's smile broadened. "Actually, I've booked for a week. And trust me, we're going to have some fascinating conversations about the future of interspecies hospitality." She stepped past him toward the gravity lift, pausing only to add, "Oh, and I'll take breakfast in my suite. I hear your chef makes excellent Earth-style pancakes." As she ascended in the gravity lift, Crixus watched with burning eyes. In 3 centuries of operation, no one had ever outmaneuvered him like this. But even as his rage simmered, a tiny part of his ancient mind wondered, what was this human's true purpose? The answer would shake the foundations of not just his hotel, but the entire galactic order. And somewhere above him, Nova Reed began unpacking her bags, knowing this was just the opening move in a game centuries in the making. The first pieces were in place. Soon, the real negotiation would begin, and with it, a change that would reshape the relationship between humans and aliens forever. But for now, Nova simply enjoyed the view of New Thesha's 3 moons rising over the horizon, their light catching the edge of her smile, a smile that held secrets that would make even the mighty Crixus tremble. Scales of power. Dawn broke over New Thesha's spires as Crixus stormed through the crystalline corridors of the Celestial Crown's executive level. The morning's reports only fueled his mounting rage. Overnight, the human woman had not only accessed the hotel's restricted recreation deck but had spent hours conversing with his most prestigious guests. "Show me the surveillance," he commanded. The AI complied, projecting holographic scenes of Nova Reed charming her way through the alien elite. A Centaurian trade minister sharing classified economic projections. 2 Andromedian princes discussing military deployments. Even the notoriously reclusive queen of the Silicon Hives had granted her a private audience. "Impossible," Crixus muttered, his claws leaving deep gouges in his titanium desk. "Computer, activate Protocol Omega." "Authorization, Crixus Prime Alpha." The AI's response sent chills down his spine, "Access denied. Security protocols have been reconfigured." A soft chuckle echoed from the doorway. "Looking for these?" Nova Reed stood there, holding up a crystalline data chip. "Your encryption was impressive. For last century's technology." Crixus's scales bristled with barely contained fury. "You've made a grave mistake, human. This hotel has stood as a symbol of galactic elite for centuries. We have contingencies for problems like you." "Ah yes, the famous Obsidian Guard." Nova walked casually into his office, seemingly unconcerned by his towering presence. Elite draconian warriors, trained in 17 forms of combat. Currently enjoying an involuntary nap in their quarters. Amazing what a little modified sleeping gas can do. "You." Crixus's voice trembled with rage. "Should be more careful with my ventilation system access?" "Probably." But then again, she smiled, settling into one of his custom-made chairs, "I'm not the one who just lost control of their entire security network." The Grand Overseer's golden eyes narrowed. "What do you want?" Finally, the right question. Nova's playful demeanor shifted, replaced by something harder, more focused. "The Celestial Crown isn't just a hotel, is it? It's a nexus. Every major decision in this sector of space passes through these halls. Treaties signed in luxury suites, wars declared over gourmet dinners, entire species' fates decided during afternoon tea." She leaned forward. "And humans have been systematically excluded from all of it." "As they should be," Crixus growled. "Your species is barely out of its cosmic cradle. You lack the refinement, the understanding." "We lack an invitation," Nova cut in. "But that changes today." A high-pitched whine filled the air as hidden defense turrets emerged from the office walls. Crixus allowed himself a predatory smile. "You overestimate yourself, human. These systems are isolated, hardwired. No amount of hacking." The turret swiveled, targeting him instead of Nova. "You were saying?" Nova raised an eyebrow. "Did you really think I spent the night just socializing? Your guests are wonderfully chatty after a few drinks. Especially about security overrides they've been given, just in case." Crixus stood motionless, acutely aware of the weapons trained on him. "The Council will hear of this." "Oh, they already have." Nova activated her neural interface, projecting a series of official documents. "As of 6 hours ago, the Galactic Council has opened a formal investigation into discriminatory practices at all major interstellar establishments. The Celestial Crown is, unsurprisingly, at the top of their list." She stood, straightening her suit. "But you have a choice, Crixus. Work with me, help establish new protocols for human integration into galactic high society, and you'll be praised as a visionary. Resist." She gestured at the turrets, "and well, I hear the Silicon Hives are opening a competing hotel chain. The ancient Draconian felt the weight of centuries pressing down on him. Everything he'd built, everything he'd maintained, balanced on this moment. You would destroy centuries of tradition? No, Nova's voice softened slightly. I would evolve it. Humanity isn't asking for special treatment. We're demanding equal consideration. And trust me, you'd rather have us as partners than adversaries. A distant explosion rocked the building. Crixus's emergency comm crackled to life with panicked reports. Nova checked her watch. Ah, right on schedule. That would be the human diplomatic fleet dropping out of hyperspace. Fascinating timing, isn't it? Crixus's shoulders slumped marginally. You planned this entire charade. Down to the last detail. Nova walked to the window, watching as massive human warships took up strategic positions around the hotel. Though I should thank you, your reputation for anti-human sentiment made you the perfect target. The perfect example. She turned back to him. So, shall we discuss those new integration protocols? I have some fascinating ideas about cultural exchange programs. In that moment, facing this human who had systematically dismantled his defenses, outmaneuvered his security, and turned his own guests against him, Crixus felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: respect. Perhaps, he said carefully, we should continue this discussion over breakfast. I believe you mentioned something about pancakes? Nova's smile returned, genuine this time. Now you're getting it. Though first, might want to do something about those turrets. They're giving me a rather aggressive backdrop for negotiations. As the weapons powered down, Crixus realized this was more than a defeat, it was the beginning of a transformation. Whether he liked it or not, the age of human isolation was ending. And somehow, this infuriating, brilliant human had made him part of the change. Breaking point. The Celestial Crown's Grand Conference Room had never hosted such an unprecedented gathering. On one side sat Nova Reed, flanked by holographic projections of the human diplomatic corps' highest-ranking officials. On the other, Crixus found himself surrounded by the hotel's most influential guests, beings who controlled entire star systems with a mere gesture. This is outrageous, declared Ambassador Xylith of the Crystalline Concordat, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns of agitation. The human's presence here violates countless protocols. Protocols designed specifically to exclude us, Nova countered, her calm voice carrying across the tension-filled room. Or shall we discuss the Arcturus Accords? The ones your government conveniently negotiated here while blocking all human representatives? The ambient temperature dropped as Xylith's crystal structure darkened. You dare. I dare because someone has to, Nova interrupted, standing. For too long, this hotel has served as more than just a luxury establishment. It's been a shadow parliament, where the fate of human worlds is decided without our input. Crixus watched the exchange with growing unease. In the past 12 hours, Nova had systematically exposed decades of secret meetings, backdoor deals, and anti-human legislation that had been crafted within his hotel's walls. Each revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled dignitaries. The human speaks truth, rumbled Elder Mornax, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate environmental suit. We have used this neutrality to disadvantage their species. Nova's neural interface projected a series of classified documents into the air. The Proxima Containment Initiative. The Mars Quarantine Proposal. Operation Stellar Lock. All designed to limit human expansion, all conceived in this very room. The assembled aliens shifted uncomfortably. Crixus felt his carefully maintained world crumbling further. These were necessary precautions, he attempted. Your species' rapid advancement terrified you, Nova finished. We went from primitive planetary civilization to interstellar capability in less than 2 centuries. While your species spent millennia gradually expanding, we exploded into the cosmos. And that scared you. She walked around the table, her footsteps echoing in the tense silence. But here's what you never understood: containing humanity isn't the solution. Partnership is. A new hologram appeared, technical specifications that made several aliens gasp. "That's impossible," whispered a mechanoid representative, its optical sensors rapidly analyzing the data. "Advanced quantum drive technology," Nova explained. "Developed by human scientists last month. Capable of reducing interstellar travel time by 60%. We're willing to share it, along with a dozen other breakthrough technologies we've kept hidden." The room erupted in chaos. Aliens argued amongst themselves, their various languages creating a cacophony of diplomatic noise. Crixus slammed his tail against the floor, restoring order. "You've been holding back technological advances," he demanded. Nova's smile held a predatory edge. "Did you think we'd share our best innovations with those who tried to contain us? Every anti-human policy crafted in this hotel pushed us to develop independently. To innovate in secret." She faced the assembled dignitaries. "But now we're offering a choice. Continue trying to contain humanity, and we'll keep our advances to ourselves. Or..." She paused meaningfully, "accept us as equals. Open your establishments, your trade routes, your diplomatic channels. In return, we'll share everything." "This is coercion," Xylith protested. "This is negotiation," Nova corrected. "Something we should have been doing from the start." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the hotel. Crixus's emergency systems activated, projecting urgent warnings. "Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace," the AI announced. "Signatures match, the Draconian Defense Fleet." Nova's expression hardened. "Right on schedule." Crixus's scales bristled. "You knew they would come?" "Of course. The moment I exposed the anti-human initiatives, certain parties would try to silence the revelation." She turned to the assembled aliens. "Your last chance to choose. Partnership or conflict?" Through the conference room's massive windows, they watched as the Draconian warships faced off against the human fleet. Tension crackled like lightning across space itself. "You would risk war?" Elder Mornax asked. "We would risk everything for equality," Nova replied. "The question is, would you risk everything to deny it?" The silence that followed held the weight of galaxies. Crixus looked between the fleets, the dignitaries, and this human who had orchestrated it all. In 3 centuries of operation, his hotel had shaped galactic policy through subtle manipulation and careful exclusion. Now, those same walls witnessed the potential birth of a new order, or the beginning of an interstellar war. The choice hung in the air like a sword. And as the assembled leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species faced this moment of truth, Nova Reed stood unwavering, her presence a testament to humanity's determination to claim its place among the stars. The negotiation. The Celestial Crown's defensive shields hummed as 2 opposing fleets held their positions in the space around New Thessia. Inside the Grand Conference Room, the tension had reached a breaking point. Nova Reed stood at the center of the diplomatic storm she had created, watching as the hotel's prestigious guests grappled with their moment of decision. "The Draconian fleet demands immediate surrender of the human operative," announced the hotel's AI. "They have authorized the use of force." Crixus's massive form tensed. "This goes beyond mere hotel policy now. The Draconian Confederation will not tolerate." "The Draconians," Nova interrupted, "are about to learn a valuable lesson about underestimating humanity." She activated her neural interface, and a new series of holograms filled the room. "Allow me to introduce Project Starbridge." The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence as the data streamed before them. Technical specifications, diplomatic accords, and military assessments painted a picture that none had anticipated. "Impossible," whispered Ambassador Xylith. "You couldn't have built hidden quantum gates throughout neutral space?" Nova smiled. "While you were all busy trying to contain us, humanity was preparing for this exact moment. On cue, space itself seemed to tear open around the hotel. Dozens of quantum gates activated, and through them poured ships of every alien species represented in the room, all flying under human command. "Meet the resistance," Nova announced. "Every species you tried to exclude has representatives here. The outcasts. The rebels. The ones who saw the potential in human partnership while you clung to your outdated prejudices." Crixus's golden eyes widened as he recognized ships from his own species among them. "Traitors," he growled. "Visionaries," Nova corrected. "They understood what you didn't, that humanity's rapid advancement wasn't a threat, but an opportunity. While you were holding secret meetings in luxury suites, we were building real alliances with those who shared our vision of unity." The hotel's AI interrupted again. "Draconian fleet is charging weapons. Impact in 30 seconds. Nova remained perfectly calm. "Crixus, you have a choice to make. Right now. The celestial crown can remain a symbol of exclusion and eventually become a relic of the past, or it can lead the galaxy into a new era of cooperation." The ancient hotelier looked out at the assembled ships, the mighty draconian fleet on one side, and this unprecedented coalition of species on the other. Centuries of tradition warred with the undeniable reality before him. "What exactly are you proposing?" he asked finally. Nova's expression softened slightly. "Transform the celestial crown into the galaxy's first truly universal diplomatic center. Open your doors to all species. Become the symbol of unity rather than division." "The Draconians will never allow it," Ambassador Xylith protested. "The Draconians," Nova said, "are about to discover they're outnumbered." She activated her comm, "All ships, defensive positions. Activate quantum shields." The coalition fleet moved with perfect coordination, their advanced shields creating an impenetrable barrier around the hotel. The Draconian vessels fired, and their weapons dissipated harmlessly against quantum technology they had never seen before. "As I said," Nova continued, "humanity has been busy. Now, shall we discuss the future of galactic relations like civilized beings?" The next hours were a blur of negotiation, revelation, and transformation. Nova revealed more of humanity's hidden advances, medical breakthroughs, energy solutions, transportation innovations, each one a testament to human ingenuity and a potential boon to all species. Crixus watched as, one by one, the hotel's influential guests moved from opposition to cautious interest to active support. The human had orchestrated not just a confrontation, but a complete paradigm shift. "The Draconian fleet is withdrawing," the AI announced eventually. "They are requesting to join the diplomatic discussions." Nova nodded, unsurprised. Amazing how perspective changes when you realize you're not the strongest force in the room anymore. She turned to Crixus. "Your hotel can maintain its prestige while embracing change. In fact, as the first establishment to officially welcome all species, your reputation will only grow." The ancient hotelier studied her for a long moment. "You planned this entire operation just to transform one hotel?" "No," Nova smiled. "I planned it to transform the galaxy. The hotel was just the perfect starting point. After all, real change doesn't begin in government chambers or military bases. It begins in places where people meet, talk, and learn to see each other as equals." Looking out at the assembled ships, at the mingling of species that had already begun in his conference room, Crixus felt the weight of history settling on this moment. His hotel had always been a symbol of galactic power. Perhaps now it dawn of change. 1 month after the historic confrontation at the Celestial Crown, the hotel's grand lobby had undergone a stunning transformation. Where once stood signs of exclusion now hung banners celebrating diversity across species. Crixus observed the changes from his usual spot beneath the crystalline chandeliers, watching as humans mingled freely with aliens of all kinds. "Quite a difference from my first arrival, wouldn't you say?" Nova Reed approached, now wearing the official insignia of the newly formed Interstellar Diplomatic Corps. The hotel's revenue has increased by 300%, Crixus noted, his voice carrying a hint of amazement. Every suite is booked solid for the next 5 years. Turns out inclusion is good for business, Nova smiled. Though I suspect that's not what's really on your mind. The ancient hotelier's scales shifted in subtle patterns of contemplation. The Draconian Confederation has approved the new charter. After 10,000 years of isolation, they're opening their borders to human trade routes. And technological exchange, Nova added. The quantum drive integration is proceeding ahead of schedule. By this time next year, travel time between Earth and the Draconian homeworld will be reduced to days instead of months. They walked through the lobby, passing diplomatic teams engaged in animated discussions. A human scientist demonstrated holographic medical procedures to a fascinated group of Silicon Hive representatives. Nearby, a young Draconian warrior exchanged combat techniques with Earth's military attaché. "You've changed everything," Crixus said finally. "Not just the hotel. The entire balance of power in the galaxy." Nova paused by one of the grand windows, watching ships of all species dock at the hotel's expanded spaceport. Change was inevitable. We just chose to guide it rather than resist it. The hotel's AI chimed softly, preparing for the inaugural session of the Universal Coalition. "All delegates please proceed to the Grand Assembly Hall." Crixus and Nova made their way to the newly constructed chamber. What had once been the hotel's most exclusive dining room had been transformed into a magnificent amphitheater. Representatives from over 1,000 species filled the seats, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic life. "Distinguished delegates," Nova began, her voice carrying across the chamber. "1 month ago, this hotel stood as a symbol of division. Today, it marks the beginning of a new era." She activated the central holographic display, showing the spreading network of quantum gates linking formerly isolated regions of space. "The barriers between our species are falling. Trade routes that once took years to traverse can now be crossed in weeks. Medical breakthroughs are being shared, cultural exchanges are flourishing, and ancient enemies are discovering they have more in common than they ever imagined." Crixus watched as the assembled delegates nodded in agreement. Even the most conservative Draconian representatives seemed engaged, their traditional hostility replaced by cautious optimism. "But this is just the beginning," Nova continued. "Today we formalize the Universal Coalition, not just a diplomatic body, but a commitment to shared progress. Every species brings unique strengths, perspectives, and innovations. Together, we can achieve what none of us could accomplish alone." The chamber erupted in applause. Crixus felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries: hope. His hotel, once a bastion of exclusivity, had become the cradle of a new galactic order. "There will be challenges," he murmured to Nova as the delegation began their first official session. "Of course," she agreed. "Change is never easy. But look around you, every being in this room has chosen to embrace the future rather than cling to the past." The session proceeded, and Crixus watched as former adversaries engaged in productive dialogue. Humans shared their rapid advancement techniques while ancient species offered their accumulated wisdom. Trade agreements were drafted, cultural exchanges were planned, and centuries-old conflicts began to dissolve. As the day drew to a close, Nova found Crixus in his office, studying the hotel's new universal welcome message displayed in 1,000 languages. "Having any regrets?" she asked. The ancient hotelier turned to her, his scales gleaming with renewed purpose. "Only that it took a human to show us what was possible all along." Nova smiled. "The Celestial Crown was never just a hotel, Crixus. It was a crossroads waiting for the right moment to fulfill its true potential. You didn't just run a luxury establishment, you maintained a nexus point for galactic change." Together, they watched New Thesha's 3 moons rise over a transformed horizon. Ships of all species moved in harmony through the crowded space lines, their quantum drives leaving trails of light in the darkness. The future they had sparked would ripple across the cosmos, breaking down barriers and building bridges between the stars. The Celestial Crown Hotel, once a symbol of exclusion, now stood as a beacon of unity. And in its gleaming halls, the next chapter of galactic history was already being written, one conversation, one connection, one shared moment at a time.